Yang, how can entrepreneurs win the AI game in 2025-26?
Build something that is just outside of AI's grasp. I think that we have been iterating our product for almost 2 years. And whenever we want to try to build something new, increase our feature set, it always felt just slightly beyond the possible. But actually, by the time we get there, the AI has improved and the whole new technique and the whole landscape has changed. And suddenly you've unlocked a huge amount of value that your customers have just begun to think about and you're already there.
So by just beyond the grasp, is that kind of bleeding edge? Is that what you mean of like making sure you're kind of like at that forefront as much as possible?
I think it's not bleeding edge in terms of the actual techniques of how to train AI. It's more the bleeding edge of like, what is AI good at today and what is it kind of mediocre at? Build that feature set that supports the mediocre skills and tasks and functionality, because that is the next bit that is going to improve, right? The rate of improvement is phenomenal. Like I always say to all of my lots of AI founders that I know, always have an eye on like what kind of sucks at the moment and build for that, because it will come faster than you know.
That's a great tip to even just exercise your futurist muscle, right? It's like looking at like where are we already just kind of mediocre and improve upon that. It doesn't need to be like revolutionary, groundbreaking.
Yeah, like I think even within 6 months ago, video generation with AI models was considered like, it's a bit of a party trick.
Yeah.
Right? It's not very good. It's not very realistic. It's very short clips, a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
And now you're seeing on YouTube, people are doing, short films, people are doing TV series that are completely AI generated. Just the other day, I saw a complete Viking documentary series that was all AI generated, written by a real scriptwriter. And so it's just like very compelling, right? And that 6 months ago was not possible. And then actually I guaranteed that these people were dreaming to say, if only I could build something, and they were preparing how to build an entire production team that is centered around this.
So as a follow-up question to that, how do you connect the technological innovations with market validation? Because it's one thing to kind of be an inventor and a futurist and like really kind of push those technological boundaries, but connecting it with a market need is, of course, the difference between a hobby and a business.
I don't think it has changed, right? With or without AI, how you figure out there is a market need for it hasn't changed, right? Like I think there are definitely some places where AI is a game changer, where it wasn't possible before, or that industry wasn't invented before. For example, there's plenty of people who are doing prompt optimization, right? Like that didn't exist before AI came along or LLMs became popular. But, it's an accelerant, right? So think of it as it makes whatever that you were building before or whatever was a good idea going to go much faster, much better. The experience is going to be good and bad. Like there are challenges with AI, but I don't think validating a business idea has changed. And I don't think it ever will change, right? You have to know, the specifics of a market. You have to know the psychology of your buyer. People don't necessarily always buy the best product, right? Technically, the best product doesn't always win, right? There are people whether it's brand loyalty, or just impression, or just how they feel, right? And overall, like not always like the specs of a product is what wins in the market.
Those first principles are always constant, aren't they? A hot take, is this a bubble? Is it going to burst soon? Is this just the beginning of a whole new era?
It is a bubble, but I always think that with any bubble, once it bursts, we are always at a better level than where we were, right? Like I think that there's a lot of enthusiasm, there's a lot of capital coming up, right? Like, even if you look at something which I think a lot of people think is a bubble, crypto a couple of years ago, I think everyone would say it was a huge bubble, way too much capital pouring in. But now, stable coins has become such a hot topic, right? And that would not have come out if the crypto bubble probably didn't exist, right? People were inventing and trying and seeing what works, etc. And I think AI is the same. I think that AI feels like an even bigger bubble, but the hope is that if and when it bursts, right, and I think it will burst, at least it will deflate at some point, we're going to quite significantly change how life looks like, and it would make every part of industry and every part of life slightly better.
Yeah, I'm with you. So let's connect this back to your business, the day job, and why we're talking about AI. So you're, of course, the co-founder of Cosine. For anyone who's unaware, give us the elevator pitch of Cosine. Yeah,
so, where we see ourselves as it's fundamentally we're AI dev tool, right? So there's a few ways to look at the market. There are AI dev tools that basically help either the human go a little bit faster, right? So whether it's inline autocomplete or adding AI elements into the code editor. And that's great. Like all of our engineers internally use like AI-enabled IDEs, or basically code editors. And it's great, but what we see is that it fundamentally is still limited. The ceiling is much lower, so a human will only really open one task at a time, right? Think of it as Google Docs. You don't open 3 documents at the same time. You don't edit 3 at the same time. And it's the same with code, right? You're doing one task in one code base at any given time. And, all these tools are making people's experience much better. It's people who learn to code are now becoming much more experienced much more quickly. The experienced coders and the output is becoming faster, but they're still limited. They're doing one at a time. The way that we see we're building our product fundamentally is that it's asynchronous and agentic. And what that really means is, well, go to your Jira board, your Linear board, your Asana board, wherever it may be, assign every single task, right? Whether that's 2 or whether that's 200, it doesn't matter to us. And our AI will go away and do those tasks. It'll do things that every normal human developer will be doing. It will be researching your own code base. It'll be accessing the internet to read documentation. It will use code execution to basically test every line of code it's written. So as it's writing it, it's being tested. And at the end, it will run something called CI, which is essentially, you think of it as a checklist of things that should be validated inside the code before it's sent for a human review.
Amazing.
So we're fundamentally trying to say, we're not trying to accelerate people doing one task at a time. Give us the task that you don't want to do, or the task that you never get to, or just simply you just want to have AI have a first attempt. And we are particularly good, right? Which is why we have a really special relationship with OpenAI and a few other sort of hyperscalers. We spent the last 2 years training our model to be the best at navigating existing code. There's a lot of wonderful products in the market. If you want to start a brand new app, if you want to do a brand new project, right? Don't use us. There are better products at the moment for that. If you have existing code, if you have legacy code, you have messy code, you just have large projects, we are fundamentally way better than anything else on the market, and we can prove that by independent benchmarks, right? We are just outperforming any model, whether it's an OpenAI model or Anthropic model. Fundamentally, what we have, our proprietary model, is just outperforming in existing code bases.
Incredible. Well, congratulations on that. And linking this all back to the previous points around kind of the bubble, and you do predict that there is going to be at least a deflation of that bubble. You started Cosine a few years ago, along with your co-founders, which we're definitely going to talk about as well. Do you believe that you kind of started at the right time, that you're positioned well in terms of the few years ago when you started the business and the selection of that niche to position you for the highest chance of success when that bubble deflates?
Yeah, I think, it wasn't by design. It wasn't that one day we woke up. It wasn't that we woke up one day and thought, based on the analysis, based on the analysis and the reporting, that we knew that was the right time. I think that for us, we were always playing with some of the older models, right? So, this was GPT-2, right? This is way before ChatGPT.
Yeah.
We were playing with older models like BERT, right? Non-LLM models as well. So we had always played as nerds, really, as understanding, well, we wanted to build something, but it was always not quite good enough to do any of the fun things that we wanted to do, whether it was useful things or fun things. It wasn't quite there. It was when GPT-3 came out, and this was a few months before ChatGPT came out, right? So just the model in itself, we had an aha moment where we thought, right, like, it's actually pretty smart. It was still limitations, but it was a point where we thought, we've got to try, right? Like, we didn't know how long we would go, but the timing was right for us. Like, we were both all like stopped working for our previous startups, or, we had sold our previous startup. And so for us, it was the right time to like, let's just go play with something. And that, it was just happenstance.
Well, on time, you say happenstance as well, magic word there as well, is of course the luck factor. And I'm obsessed with this kind of notion of hacking luck, and actually, the more shots you take, the more chances you've got of succeeding. And the fact that you guys were already kind of being playful and exploratory, and then kind of as these shifts, these tides turned, you just so happen to be positioned in that right place to take advantage of that opportunity.
Yeah, I know. Like, I can't say that we were founders that had, the stubbornness that we said, no, back when we started, day one, that vision is completely different to what we're building today.
Interesting.
And in fact, our earliest investor essentially said, we'll give you the investment, but you have to change your idea because we hate it.
So what was the original idea?
The original idea is actually, building new projects, right? So we were very early. I don't know if we're the first, right? I don't think we'll ever know if they're first, but we were very early in terms of giving a prompt, right? Or a set of instructions at the beginning and building a mobile app, right? So you could build, Uber for dogs, you could build Facebook for cats, right? Like you could do these things, and it would, at the time, the context window of GPT-3 was so small, we were daisy chaining the instructions. So we were doing what we could with a limited model, then passing the output into a brand new session, and then so on and so forth. It was very janky. A lot of the time it was broken, but the idea was essentially anyone who wanted to build it would build the front end, the back end. It would also work out the business logic, right? So the understanding, you go from catalog to details to checkout, all that. It understood the logic as well.
Right.
That was the original idea. But at the time, we were challenged to say, how often do people start brand new projects, right? And I still think that, to me, that is a question mark, right? Maybe I'm drinking my own Kool-Aid these days, but I still think that for most developers, at least for work, they very rarely start a code base from scratch. They very rarely might prototype someone, but ultimately when they are trying to put it into production, into the main product that they're building, existing code exists, right? And they can't work in a vacuum. And that is often where I think a lot of AI tools start headbutting against the wall.
Gang, whether or not you like it, if you're in business, you're in sales, full stop. And in today's day and age, there is no excuse not to leverage the best tech to make you smash your sales and commercial strategy. Because here's the thing, I bet whichever CRM you're using is simply telling you what happened after the matter, but gives little to no insight on why deals are stalling or closing. That's why I am genuinely so happy to tell you about Gong, the revenue AI platform that turns every customer interaction into actionable intelligence. Whether you're trying to improve prospecting, sales productivity, customer expansion, or revenue predictability, Gong offers a single AI platform purpose-built for revenue teams. Identify what separates your top performers from the rest, surface the objections that kill deals, reveal the patterns behind your wins and losses, and know exactly which messaging resonates with prospects. With powerful tools to understand every customer interaction, you can finally put an end to the guesswork and start scaling what actually works. Honestly, gang, this is such a cool tool for building sales machines. This isn't just about better data, it's about predictable revenue growth. Now, while your customers rely on gut feelings and outdated playbooks, you'll have an AI-powered insights driving every strategic decision. If you're ready to turn your sales conversations into competitive advantage, then head straight to the show notes for your unique Gong link and see why thousands of revenue teams trust their growth to revenue AI. Because in sales, strategy beats tragedy every time. All right, gang, let's get back to the episode. So this speaks to, obviously we all know about the depth of the pain point, but you've got the frequency of the pain point to look at here as well, right? From that, how do we actually convert this idea into a viable, scalable commercial business? And in order to do that, it's not just that market size, but it's that frequency of use.
It is. And I think it's where you see a lot of AI tools are at least marketing themselves for doing a certain skill for people that are adjacent to that profession, right? So
co-pilot thing.
Yeah, I think it's you look at, again, just as my industry, you look at these app generators or AI dev tools that help you build brand new projects. It's often targeted to designers or product managers or project managers or marketers, right? So people who are I have this idea, I want to test it, but engineering resources are always limited. Engineering resources never has enough capacity to basically build my experiments and want to do A/B testing and all these other ideas.
Communication.
Exactly. And so now these tools are well, you've got a Figma design or you've got this idea that you can articulate in text. Well, why don't we take this from 0 to 1 or maybe even 0.5 so that then you have a stronger case to what if it's functional? Great. Then you can do experiments. Even if it's not fully functional, you can then visualize that idea and show it to your developers and say, hey, this is what I meant. Do you agree? And you can have that internal stakeholder management and get more support for what you're doing. And I think that's where you see a lot of the marketing material targeted as you can now code,
Yeah.
Even if you don't know code.
The whole vibe coding thing, right?
Yeah.
So we've seen like Lovable is in like all the headlines at the moment. So you mentioned about your early investor kind of encouraging you to pivot. Was this pre or post YC? Because we need to talk about Y Combinator as well.
Yeah, this was at YC.
YC, I thought so.
Yeah, so it was Tom Blomfield and Michael Seibel.
Oh, just okay. Heads up, guys. There's going to be quite a bit of name dropping in this interview. So just casually mention Tom Blomfield.
Well, I don't think we did anything. So I think it was just happened. There were so many partners at YC, right? It's
no.
And the funny story is just I when I met Tom finally in person in San Francisco, I told him that all the way back when I was graduating from uni, I interviewed with him at Go Cardless for a job, and he rejected me. And it was a graduate sales job, and it's just like, and he obviously doesn't remember me. I hold no grudge that he doesn't remember.
Was he in the interview room?
He was in the interview. He was one.
So you had to. It was actually the second time you met him in person, then.
Yeah, I met him a few times at other events, but like nothing, like nothing that he would remember me. But like I did tell him the story over a beer, and he was just like, yeah, I don't remember it. I was like, fair enough.
What an amazing full circle moment there. That's hilarious. All right. So talk to us about getting accepted onto YC. What was that experience like? And what are your views on it now? Because it's not what it once was, but we'd love to hear your take on it.
I'm a fanboy. I am like, I'm just going to caveat to all your listeners that
born in Silicon Valley.
I am through and through. I think that you can criticize anything and anyone and any organization. There's always flaws and faults. I still think they're on top of their game. Like
nice.
there's no other alternative.
What makes them so good then?
I think it's three things, right? If it was practical, maybe the last one, the YC probably don't really want me to talk about, but I think it's a basically an open secret. But the first two, I think number one is the mentality. They do put a lot of pressure on you to be like, don't overthink it, talk to your customers, and it's cliche, but I think that if you operate independently without that cohorts that they do, and they put pressure, they check in every day, every week, and they make you set goals, and they hold you accountable. It's almost like, when you are in a sports team and everyone is competitive, you just generally work harder.
Yeah, nice.
Right. Do I think you could do it without YC and without these? Absolutely. Right. It is conceptually possible.
Yeah. Right.
You could be successful. You could raise funds. You can absolutely push yourself hard. You can have that discipline. But I know for myself, right, like I definitely have times where my own weakness, it gets me distracted, or I feel a bit more anxious, and I get to live in my own head a little bit more, and actually having someone just to shake you out of it, and then for a short period of time, which is essentially 3 months, to just tell you, just do this. And and it is a juxtaposition, because when we were out, YC, one of the partners basically told me such a contradictory piece of advice. But I kind of love it now, which is they were saying, you have to do what we say because we want you to be successful. And look at how many YC founders are successful. If you want to be successful, just follow what we're telling you. At the same time, almost in the same breath, they say, the best YC founders don't listen to any advice that we give them. Right?
This is just like entrepreneurship at its core, isn't it?
Yeah.
Contradictions everywhere.
It is contradictions everywhere. But it's like, and I thought about that for so long.
So how do you reconcile that then?
I think that what they are, like, at least this is my interpretation, they kind of know the cookie cutter format to at least put you in the right direction. But the truly great founders or the successful founders eventually have to carve their own path.
Renegades.
Yeah, like I'm going to do something that's non-scalable. I'm going to do something that everyone says is impossible. Or I'm going to do something, I carve out a new product where the market doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's probably what they meant to say the best founders don't listen to our advice, or don't listen to any advice. Right?
That makes sense.
There is obviously, I'm going to caveat that to say, obviously, I'm always thinking about survivorship bias, and I think every one of your listeners is going to think about, well, how much is that? Is like the successful people then retrospectively say, if you did this, then you will be successful, right? Like we joke in our company all the time where we say, maybe we're like, the reason we are successful down the line, right, when hopefully one day we IPO or we have a big exit, is we all drank so much Diet Coke, right? We in the future, we're just going to mess with people and just tell them that the secret source of why success came was because we all love Diet Coke so much, right?
You all woke up at 6:42 a.m.
Yeah, we had an ice bath, right? Like, it's just like, I think it's just like, if it was, I think there's, again, like...
I totally get it.
Yeah, I think it's like, not to say to criticize people who do ice baths and wake up at 5 a.m. and do all these things. I think that that discipline overall, having a system, is probably what gives you the best chance to capture something when you have a spark, right? It's not that it is going to get you over the finish line, but it's just like, okay, if you find something that is like a spark, or you find something that is actually going to be like successful, then you have the best chance already to be like, okay, I'm going to take advantage of that.
Yeah. You got to set yourself up for success. And then beyond that point, it's up to you. I totally get it. And like, I understand it from my perspective, mentoring MBA students in entrepreneurship and the EdTech scale up where I mentor as well. It leans on a lot of those principles. And it's very, it's an 18-month program. It's a monthly intake of cohorts, and it's like classes and modules and frameworks, and we have to do the same homework, and it is extremely formulaic. So you've got that side to it. But then beyond that, you're still an entrepreneur. Like, there isn't a step-by-step manual to every single thing. Definitely. But so back to YC, it totally makes sense as well, being in that environment, the competitiveness, the momentum, breeding momentum as well. So you love it, 10 out of 10 experience.
I do, yeah. There's some of these ups and downs, but yeah, I love it overall. I would do it over again. And you see a lot of YC founders, if they aren't successful, even if they are successful, you see a lot of people having an exit and then going back again. I totally
amazing. What worked for you with the application getting on, in case any listeners are interested in applying to YC themselves?
I don't know. I think this is like, I think there's YC are already pretty prescriptive in telling you exactly what they want to see, right? And, how you should present it. I don't think I can give you any more sage advice. I guess, you have to be clear, right? In the sense that, I would say, like, my advice to people is that you have to remember what the goal is here. Like, goal is to get an interview. The goal is not to convince them that you are going to be a decacorn and you're going to make them lots of money and then you're going to be the next great founder.
Defeats the purpose of Accelerator.
Yeah, obviously they take that into consideration, but really your goal is to optimize for how do I convey in the short period of time in that video that you're making that you deserve a chance for an interview.
Okay.
And, I think that probably, I can't speak for everyone, like my impression is that YC lets in ideas that they don't like. Like, in every cohort, there is definitely a subset of ideas where they think, we don't really believe in it, or we don't really get it, or we don't think this is going to be super successful. But what they're looking for and optimizing for is, does this founder have the grit to prove us wrong? Everyone knows in an early stage, you'll probably pivot loads.
Yeah.
And if they are going to pivot, do you think that this person has the fortitude, has the intelligence, has the grit to keep on pivoting until they hit something that is going to work?
They're backing the jockey, not the horse, right?
Exactly.
It feels like bad boy appeal as well, with like, I can fix him mentality. We're like, we want these ideas that we know that we can like pivot. And I think that makes sense as well in terms of like their brand reputation, because it's also looking at like, how can we prove that we can add value? So they're also looking at it from that perspective.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And it's like, let's wrap up. We were saying there's three things I think that YC helps with a founder. I think the first one is obviously it's the community, that the discipline that's forced upon you. It's like going to camp, right? The second one, I think it's a community, right? So the secret, I think, for a lot of super early stage products, right, including when we first launched, and the vast majority of YC, is that you sell to other YC companies, right? They always tell you that you're never going to be super successful only selling to YC companies.
Sure.
But YC companies are more willing to try YC products.
Right.
And you have a community where you can promote to. People are much more friendly in terms of making warm intros to other YC founders. So your early customers, and whatever you charge, right? You're basically charging almost nothing. That validation to say, is this a real pain point? Is my solution actually fixing for something? You already have a head start. Right, you're genuinely, I can go to the YC community and be like, hey, we want to try this new feature that's experimental. I guarantee you that I'll get a few people that are willing to try within a day, right? And that's not necessarily guaranteed unless you have that community, right? Unless you're in the know already.
Yeah, that massively gives you a leg up, doesn't it? They've got their own self-interest in this a little bit as well, right? Like, how is this also kind of helping the wider community? So beyond YC itself, what was the experience like in San Fran? The whole kind of, this is the belly of the beast of tech entrepreneurship. What was that experience like?
I think the difference is in positivity, right? Again, I don't think this is unique, right? But I really felt it. And as a British person,
it's a bit of bastards.
As a British person, I often, when I was in California, felt, and I know we still spend about half the year in California at the moment, because all our investors and most of our customers are US based, but I still find, with a Britishness in me, I find it quite saccharine, and I find it quite over the top, and I'm quite sarcastic, and I like judgmental when I hear someone ask me how my day was and all that positivity.
To me, if I want to have a nice day,
exactly.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and
leave me alone.
But I think that it's like, it's a intangible thing that kind of causes drag in your life, in your business, in your company trajectory. It's like, it's often in the US, you will find people find reason, regardless of whether you think it's genuine or not, right? I think it's almost like, what is it? It's like self-affirmation or like visualizing success, right? It's, even if you don't believe that they really mean it, just because people say that you will be a success, and that you will hit your next milestone and you will make it, will give you just that little bit more energy and a little bit more sort of strength to just carry on. And really, you don't really know what's around the corner, and that little bit more positivity to find reason why you should do something, to find reason why you should help someone or they should help you, I think generally gives you it's an imperceptible thing, positivity or advantage that adds day by day, right? And this, everyone knows in entrepreneurship, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, right? And I think imagine if you just had, you're running an actual marathon, right? Your shoes just don't fit so well. Every mile you run, it just rubs against a little bit more. By the time you get to the end, you might not finish it, right? And I think that's the main difference I'm feeling over here. And this isn't my first business, right? Like in previous times, and the old previous one was a UK only business, right? And it was often told why you shouldn't do something. Yeah. You shouldn't start an FCA regulated fintech, right? You shouldn't try and work in an industry that you have no experience with, because
more skepticism.
You're always going to get crushed, right? What do you know? The FCA will never talk to you, right? Like all that stuff. It's just like, okay, well, it just takes a little bit, as you were saying, right? Luck is almost a probability thing where, if you roll the dice 100 times, you're going to roll a 6, right? If you only roll it once, then you might not get it, right? And so I think you've really got to have that energy to do so, and that positivity, regardless of how genuine it is.
Still helpful.
And it's just like definitely that really helps with overall.
Yeah, and connecting it back to Tom Blomfield, name dropping. There's going to be more name dropping to come as well, so do bear with us. He posted this article or blog post that went viral a while ago as well, right? The difference between UK, US, and would you mind kind of filling in the gaps on that one?
Yeah, no, I think it's like, I've only briefly talked to him about it as well, where I was in San Francisco and these alumni events. I think it's fairly similar, where he was just saying like, anywhere is possible to build a great business. There is capital. London or UK in general has probably more capital than the vast majority of other cities that are in a similar size. The UK also produces fantastic talent, fantastic customers, all that stuff. It is possible. But if you are going to do something that is very hard and probably nigh on impossible, the odds are against you, why would you not do everything to optimize the odds in your favor, right? Like if I said to you, you could be successful only if you did this small thing, right? Or you shifted your mindset or your environment or your diet or these things and all these things, you probably would say consider it and probably would attempt it. And I think that's probably, and again, I'm putting words in his mouth here now, it's just like, why wouldn't you go somewhere? Why wouldn't you set yourself up for the best chance of success? So
with that in mind and the American dream and the positivity and all the rest of it, why are you building this in London?
So I think we only launched our product publicly about 7-8 weeks ago, right? So thank you. Yes, a few months when it comes out. I think for us, there was a couple of things that we felt that gave us an advantage in the UK. Number one, so we raised a lot of money, right? At least for pre-seed companies, it was relatively a lot of money. But we weren't sure whether our product was right yet. We kind of had an inkling that we were doing something right, but we were kind of still experimenting and we weren't for sure. So we wanted to basically play, and to be very frank, the salary arbitrage, right? We could hire developers here in the UK that is as talented as what we could find in the US, but, really for a fraction of the salary. we're definitely not underpaying our developers. We're paying market, if not slightly better than market over here. But it's just like for the same level of talent, it's just significantly cheaper here in the UK, and that would extend our runway. So whilst we were experimenting, we could, it would be working to our advantage. I also think that overall, we are all British. All our founders are, British people. We did previous businesses, previous careers that we here were all British careers. We know how to navigate things like tax, payroll, and again, it's optimizing for friction. Like me trying to figure out, how do I comply with labor laws? How do I do health insurance for American employees? Like
totally different ballgame.
And it's just, again, an extra level of friction or distraction that I don't need at this stage of my company, right? You tell me, what my employer's contribution for pension is. I know it, right? I know what pension provider to use, right? Someone asks for me for a cycle to work scheme. I know exactly how to implement it over here. I don't need to think about it. I don't need to go away and do these things. And those are the two things that I think really made our decision to say we wanted to build here, at least in the early stage of our company.
Yeah.
I say to our investors, and the vast majority are American investors, right? Other than a Lakestar here in the UK, or technically, here in Switzerland, but they have a big office here in London. We will probably have to move if we become super successful, and I think it's not really the reason that most people will think about it. It's not that it's access to the customers. We're a software business. People buy software anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Where we think, actually, in my perspective, it's the sheer volume of talent. You ask me to hire 20, 30, 40 engineers that I think are at the top of the game or have a specific niche or experience that I want, I can find it in London. And you want me to go find 400 engineers at that level of sort of expertise and fitting the culture that I want, or just the type of experience that I want. I think that's much harder. And it's like, by the time that, obviously this is a rich man's problem to have, to say I need to hire 400. But I think at that point, and there are definitely other decision-making points where it's like you're forced to move perhaps to the US or some other country, but US is probably the default answer. It's that there's just a physical limitation.
Yeah.
And I think, like, whilst I believe that, I often get told, the population size across Europe is the same as the US, I do still think there is friction. There is a more homogenous culture, a more homogenous, work ethic or skill set or style by hiring just US-based employees, even if they're distributed across multiple states, than there is trying to hire across multiple European countries. And I think that, again, it's optimizing for like every small bit of friction, right? And again, I would like to reiterate, this is a rich man's problem. Like, if you're hiring 400 engineers, yes, there's probably some cost saving to still be had in terms of like hiring in Europe compared to hiring in the US. But by then, I think I'll be optimizing in terms of like the culture, right? And hiring, like, can I align everyone to work in the same way, right? How easy is it to basically hire talent from like states that just have more concentrated talent instead of trying to go across multiple countries across Europe? That friction is then what I'm optimizing for. I'd like, at that point, hopefully, if I'm hiring 400 engineers, like the cash flow is no longer a problem.
Exactly. You're at a different stage, to different priorities. Lots of practicalities on that. And I think also just with that, just sort of wrapping the geography topic for a sec, there is it's a tech product, as you say. You can hop on a flight if you need to be in San Fran in person. One of the great advantages of being where we're sat now in the world as well is like time zone, like we're bang in the middle of East and West as well, right? So calls and all the rest of it. So very doable, makes a lot of sense. On the scaling, you saying about kind of 400 engineers at some point in the future, you've already scaled massively in the past how many months, right? So you've gone from, 6 to 30 people, which isn't huge, but when you go like low single digit to double digit in a rapid amount of time, what have been some key lessons in that process for you?
I think key lessons are, and again, I always hesitate to give advice. Maybe this is me, again, drinking the YC Kool-Aid. I feel like always, like, giving advice is always non-applicable, right? It's very specific. And again, I always feel bad because maybe it's retrospectively me applying logic to something that we just made a snap decision at a time.
Right. What's worked for you, or what's been a mistake that you've learned from that you want other people to avoid?
I don't think doubling headcount doubles productivity. Again, I've heard this from other places, so it's not unique, but I think I've lived through it multiple times, including this time around as well. I think you kind of have to triple, right? At the very least, you have to triple. If you go from 6 to 12, you don't double your productivity. You want to double your productivity, you have to triple, right? And so we really felt the difference when we hit 18, 20 people.
It's kind of meta as well that you're operating like in the AI industry, which is all about that like productivity and optimizations, but you're not feeling that with the headcount.
I think we are. I think we are at a 20, 30 person company. We are probably feeling like we're operating like a 100-person company.
Yeah. Wow.
So I think it's like it definitely helps. What is, I suppose, my...
Have the main hires been engineers for you?
Yeah, they're almost exclusively engineers, ML guys.
Have you gone through headhunters, recruiters for them direct? Have you sourced this talent?
Yeah, I think basically we do two things, right? In the early stages, when we were beginning to scale, it was through our network. In fact, the joke was that for a while, it looked like that we would only hire friends or friends of friends. We didn't hire anyone else. I think at some point, we started seeing that there was an opportunity cost for waiting for having onboarding talent, right? So we started using recruiters, we started paying for platforms, right? Whether it's Cord or something else, we're paying for advertising. There is a certain amount of like effort, right? Definitely, I think every founder who's been through a hiring sprint feels like there's so much distraction, and I'd rather just get someone right in quicker and pay the fee because the opportunity cost is so much higher. Like I think again, we are now growing to a stage where we are large enough and, we don't want to pay so much fees anymore that we're beginning to look at, building our internal team. We're reducing our spend on with recruiters. But I think for, again, sort of tactical hires, like let's say we need to backfill a role that's just very critical, or we see like a cohort or a type of customer that's just is growing rapidly and we need more engineering resource or we need marketing resource to really double down on that, and we just got to go fast. Is that, again, it's all about capturing that spark, like like lighting a fire. If you let the spark die, then the opportunity is gone.
And then how do you balance that with the whole, you've got the cliche of like hire slow, fire fast, and like spending that time to get that fit right when you're hiring, but obviously you still want to move fast, you've got an opportunity. So how do you try and hit both the quality and the speed? I
think I somewhat disagree with hire slow, fire fast for all roles. I think positions of leadership, sure, yeah, you should get that right. They set the culture. They really, whether they are a leader or they're a boss, right, really changes how your culture is there. But I think for a lot of roles, maybe this is controversially, you hire fast and fire fast. You have to be very honest. You have to be upfront with all candidates to say, we could spend weeks and months trying to assess something, and you're never going to be under pressure, and all of that. So we like you. You obviously like us because you're still engaged in this process. We're going to make an offer. It's going to be generous, all right? And we're going to be very clear of how we are assessing you. What are the milestones that we want you to reach? And I think that you have to have people who are willing to take that risk, right? Maybe this is unfair, or maybe this is making us lose a lot of good candidates. We don't like candidates that are not actively looking. I think a lot of recruiters or a lot of people who are hiring is like, oh, the best talent are people who are not actively looking because they're content for their job, or they're obviously very good.
And the motivation.
I don't quite believe that. Like I think it's like, sure, you might not be putting a lot of effort, but you're looking, right? You're looking. You are actively looking. Just because you're not spending hours sending out applications and you're struggling to make next month's rent, so you really need a job, it doesn't mean you're not actively looking.
There needs to be that willingness.
We have again maybe an unusual policy, and I know a few other startups that do this, and I think Linear, right? So basically the productivity tools like a Jira or Asana competitor that's very popular with a lot of developers at the moment. They do a very similar, and I believe we probably stole it from them, at least originally inspired by them. Is that we make all candidates spend a week with us. We'll pay you like a real engineer.
Nice.
We expect you to take a week off of holiday time. We totally understand not everyone can do that. We try and be flexible so you don't have to do 5 days if you really can't do it. We try and do 3 days. No, we will come in on a weekend and pair code with you to work on a project.
Nice.
And when they come in, we give them a real project. We give them a real ticket. You set it up. We see how quickly can you set yourself up, how quickly can you do that. And again, sure, we probably lose a lot of candidates to say, of course I'm not coming in and giving a week of my holiday to you. But to me,
you're saving time up front, aren't you? Because you're actually getting to put it to the test. I mean, we all try and do interview tasks or set projects, and you never really know on either side of the table how it's actually going to work on both sides until you're there in the room working alongside people. So I love that. Just on the speed, what's the shortest time frame you've ever hired someone?
Sure. Well, I think that for the majority of our engineers, we ask them to come for a week. They usually come on a Monday. And by Wednesday, we've made our decision and we've given them an offer. And then we say to them, it's up to you whether you want to continue to work. We like you enough.
Nice.
And so I'd say most of them quite fast. I don't think there's many people that is any faster.
Cool.
Yeah, I think for non-tech roles, maybe we've hired a little bit faster for tech roles. Within 3 days of coming to the office and doing a task and seeing how they interact with existing colleagues that we have is wonderful. They could be the best developer in the world on paper or on a take-home task. But they don't gel with the culture,
bad apple.
Yeah, they're not communicative, or the communication style. It's not bad, but it's just not the style that your current team has.
Fit.
It's not a fit, right? I don't care, right? I'm not going to hire someone that's basically going to disrupt the existing team.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
so it's it's quite telling. I suppose it's maybe as we are now scaling even faster, we're intending to essentially double the size of our team again in the next 3-4 months.
Incredible,
right?
Exciting.
We
hunters, recruiters, heard it here first.
Well, yeah. So we're reassessing how we're doing everything, right? So maybe this will all change. We'll just, again, bad advice. I know one should listen.
Already regretting what you just said.
Yes, exactly. I think for us, it's maybe we have to change because as we are increasing the volume of candidates people that we want to hire, that this is sustainable, and maybe that this is in the future we will behave like everyone else does. But at least for us in the early stages, really worked for us. Every single person that we have hired has always felt like I would be friends with you. Yeah. It's great. I don't agree with you at work and some of the things the way you think, but I'd buy you a beer, right? I'd go and play tennis with you and all of these things, and we have had people who have left, right? So voluntarily, they've left to go on to start their own company, or for family reasons, they wanted to move to a different location. We miss every single person that has ever left. I genuinely think for everyone that we wish that they were still around. There's no one where we think that, oh, thank God they're not here anymore, or we don't notice they're here.
Aww.
And just really quite left field way of recruiting has really worked out for us.
I think this really speaks, kudos to you guys on your clarity of values, vision, culture, even if it's not exactly codified or, you don't have the wall art in your office wall, but that clarity of, what you want, who would be a good fit. And if it works for you, then fantastic. And if you have to iterate further down the line, that's exactly the entrepreneurial journey. Rewinding back a little bit, you said that those early hires were predominantly made through network. And I did want to talk to you about this as well, because Yang, I don't think I know someone with a better network than you. You are so incredibly well positioned. We need to get back on the name dropping as well, but I feel like you know anyone and everyone. So talk to me about that superpower. Is that something that does that come naturally to you? Is that a conscious effort? Are there any sort of tips, tricks that you can share with us?
It's not conscious, right? I definitely don't think I've sat at home trying to memorize names and, doing the things. I think if I had to, and I've thought about this a few times in my life, I do think in general, my personal secret superpower is that I'm a very good, I guess, active listener.
Yeah.
And I have a good memory for personal or small details,
yeah.
right? You and I have known each other for a few years. I know how you met your boyfriend. I know some of the inside jokes that you make fun of your boyfriend about, right? It's not conscious. I'm not there memorizing things, but I think that
it's a natural strength.
It's a natural strength. So I remember, I can, when I met my wife, right? She was surprised that I remembered what her favorite wine was, or, what her favorite family holiday was within a few days of meeting her, right?
It goes a long way.
I think that just generally helps when I'm talking to people, or, I'm not close to the vast majority of my network, and they don't ever remember me, but I remember.
Yang, don't worry.
I really don't think, right? I think, but for me, I just when I need someone, or I need help somewhere, or I need to make an introduction, I remember enough of a detail to feel like there is a warm connection even if we haven't spoken in years, right? Or we met at a conference.
That doesn't surprise me at all that it comes so naturally to you. And I think someone introduced me to this concept of go-giver, as in, opposite of a go-getter.
Yeah.
And you absolutely come to mind with that phrase as well. Like, you've been so incredibly helpful to me over the years. And I can tell that it's genuine and authentic to you. And you most likely do that with anyone that you come across. How much of that, I guess, where does that come from? And, I know that it is a very common trait in the Silicon Valley entrepreneurial circles, because we're all kind of in the trenches together and need to help and build up that credit, even if it's not that transactional. But again, is that kind of a natural strength of yours, or is that kind of a strategy?
I guess I just have a rule. Is the effort above or below 5 minutes? All right. Like, for me, if it's below 5 minutes and it's not going to harm me or anyone else, I'll just go do it. Right. Like, I think for say everything more than 5 minutes, I think it takes a lot more convincing. Again, I don't think it's a conscious decision that I'm a giver. I think it's just simply, someone has taken the effort to ask me and they managed to get to me, right? Like, they either have my number or my email, or they've asked, they put the effort in.
Yeah.
If it takes me less than 5 minutes, fine.
Let's connect this to the whole fundraising, investing. We need to get onto this topic as well. I know so much ground I want to cover here. How have your superpowers that we're covering here in terms of like remembering details, having this good memory, like offering value and helping people, how much has that played into your investment strategy, and even just kind of rubbing shoulders with the likes of Tom Blomfield, Sam Altman, we need to talk about as well, like that next level of network that people want to get into?
As in like my own personal angel investing, or like raising investment?
Raising investment, yeah.
So I think that, again, to give YC their credit, right? Like, just for this time round, we were a YC company. We didn't have to do much like outbound or outreach.
Amazing.
The investors came to us,
nice.
Right? You're well trained by YC by the time you're on demo day. You articulate well, your elevator pitch is super slick, and you can present a solution very quickly. They come to you, right? And so I have to admit, like, this time, for at least our first round of funding, we didn't have to do much outreach at all. So, which is why I totally still recommend YC for.
We need to get those guys sponsoring this podcast, honestly. It's just like one big ad for YC. I love it. But look,
Gary Tan, if you're listening, I fully recommend that you sponsor it.
Fantastic. Bring it on. I love it. But I think you're doing yourself a bit of a disservice here, right? Because I feel like you have had these incredible connections in the past. I mean, I know some of like your previous bosses or other connections that you've made through your previous workplaces.
Yeah, like I have raised late stage funding, right? And I think it matters a lot more when it's late stage, where, it's simply a bigger check size. I think it's a lot of the time it's no longer just, betting on the founder anymore. It's betting on the business and traction of that. I think that again is, the network helps in getting your foot in the door, and I don't want to discount that, right? And I think that people who don't have the network really, really struggle.
Yeah,
and I think that's almost the biggest hump to cross. I think that, my like feeling is just that it's understanding what the other side's incentives are, right? Like, my biggest piece of advice about fundraising, particularly later stage, right? Series A and beyond, is you have to understand the economics and mechanics of how a fund works, right? They are friendly to you, but they're not your friends. Right? And they are friendly to you because they want to extract value out of you. They have people who have given their money, right? They have LPs, and they have people they need to show a return to.
Right.
And if it means that they have to basically stab you in the back down the line in order to basically for the greater good of their investment, or they have to apply pressure, or they do something that you don't agree with, that's just them looking out for themselves, right? You look after yourself, they look after themselves, but you're friendly when your incentives align. But to understand the incentives and the structure of a fund I think is probably the best advice I can give for founders who are trying to raise for the first time, right? Repeat founders understand this because they've gone through this, right?
Yeah.
And so they know what the incentives, right? It's not personal. It's just that unless you're an evergreen fund, right? And some funds now are converting to an evergreen fund. They have a 10-year lifespan. They only deploy capital within the first, first 2 to 3 years. After that, they're not really deploying any more capital other than follow-on investments to their existing portfolio. So you really got to, even if a fund is interested in their current fund vintage, right, and the year they started a fund is beyond 3 years, your probability of getting money out of them is just very low. It's a structural limitation. Not they don't like you, not your business is bad. It's just that they don't have the cash earmarked for you. And so it's like that often you can feel rejected if you don't understand to say, okay, well, it wasn't personal, right? Like you can do all the right things and your business can be wonderful. And yes, there are exceptions being made where it's like, if the next OpenAI comes along and, they know for a fact that you're going to be the next OpenAI, of course they're going to raise a separate fund. They have they can raise a SPV and get their LPs to put in extra cash for a special situation.
But it has to be so unbelievably
exactly right. But if the status quo is just like, again, it's just you have to understand sort of the structure and economics of a fund.
And that's a healthy perspective to, not take it personally, right? On the subject of fundraising, how on earth did you guys fundraise in 1 week? What's the story there?
We just killed ourselves by meeting lots of investors. So after demo day, or even in fact before demo day, we've done this. It's not unusual. Previously, I think a long time ago, YC startups really raised post demo day. I think that there was a big majority now that just already had closed their round before demo day. And so it's actually people are reaching out to you sooner and sooner. And so, I think we've essentially we push back all of our meetings to say, well, look, we're not ready. We don't want to trickle the meetings. We kind of condense all the meetings across a week, where we say it started a day or two before demo day and it extended a few days after demo day. But it was back to back, right? We started at 7 a.m. and we didn't finish until sometimes 9 p.m. And, and then we'd go to a late dinner or a drink with a VC that really wanted to meet in person. We just jam-packed it, right? And again, what I was saying, like for this company that we're building at the moment, it was predominantly inbound, right? Like they saw that we were building AI early. We had some pretty good early traction. We had a good word of mouth and reputation as founders, and they just came our way. And so what we did was we structured it very methodically to say, we built a Google sheet to say, who do we track? Who do we like? Who do we thought was promising? And what materials did we send to XYZ? And then we were clear about when we were aiming to close, right? And also, I suppose we took 2 pragmatic decisions. Again, I don't want to give this as advice because I think everyone's very different, and maybe this decision will bite us in the arse down the line. And I'm sorry for your censorship. Maybe you have to censor what I just said. Okay. Sorry for maybe there's a bleep coming. We said to everyone, it's first come, first serve. We had a dollar amount at a valuation that we wanted to raise. We would take anyone's check as soon as you can send or sign the documents, right? It doesn't matter that you were Sequoia. It doesn't matter that you were an angel investor. This is the dollar amount we wanted. This is the valuation. As long as you agree to those 2 terms, send us the terms and wire the money. Oh. And again, we don't consider a done deal on our side until you wire the money. Like we will say that we needed to wire it on the same day or whatever. And the last, basically, as we were closing the round, people were asking people to wire immediately, and the smaller checks were possible. We're saying that what that created, I suppose, is in the VC industry, kind of controversial or not controversial, depending how you say, we ended up with more people on our cap table than normal, right? Because we were picking up angel checks. But I think for us, the early momentum of having angels who then introduced to bigger angels who then introduced to bigger funds created that momentum that allowed us to basically close to speed and close very, very quickly. But also, it's like, I suppose, speaking very bluntly, whether your startup gets funded in the next round, it's not going to come from whether you had 2 people on your cap table or 7 people on your cap table, or, even if you had 70 people on a cap table. No one's going to be like, oh, I would have invested into you, and you were a great business, and, we really believed you could be a decacorn, but if only you had less people on your cap. That's not at this early stage, that's not the marker. Yeah. Definitely, you're going to put some work in down the line, like if you're raising a Series C, Series D, where someone will come and say, oh, look, you have to go clean up your cap table, right? And that's a lot of work. You have to basically go and talk to your existing investors to say, hey, can we roll it up? Can we, can we clean this up? Can we buy existing investors out, etc.? That might be what you have to do, but by then again, it's a rich person's problem to have, right? Like,
so I have to ask, I've had a lot of conversations on the investment front, like fundraising around, like, be careful who you're getting into bed with, because this is a long-term commitment. They're going to be, a part of your business, a part of your journey for the next, however many years. So did that kind of cross your mind in terms of, this sounds very, very kind of masculine, aggressive, methodical, formulaic, like first come, first serve, get this all done. I mean, I love the momentum and the speed and the deadline and all of that. But did it ever cross your mind, like, what if we get this, like, awful investor that makes our life hell over the next 10 years? It wasn't a worry.
Yes and no. So that's not really not answering your question here. We did reject investors, right? Because we didn't like the vibe on the call. I would say that I don't think it was particularly methodical in terms of our vetting on who we said yes and who we said no to. It was definitely a vibe check. And there are some times where we would have a second call or even a third call. We're like, we're not sure. And we have rejected people who wanted to invest. And, we have since taken on some additional funding after we closed the round, because there are investors who pursued us relentlessly and over the weeks and months have convinced us to say, actually, we would like to.
Nice.
So it's not a fully closed door, I suppose. Again, speaking very bluntly here, we didn't raise in our first round a priced round. It was a safe round, right? So it's an ASA here in the UK. So no one's on our cap table. So no one actually holds any equity at the moment. So in this early stage, in the first couple of years, they really have no power, right? Down the line, when it converts, sure, they become actual equity holders and it may become more troublesome. Mm-hmm. Again, I think it's like, sure, like, if you become super successful and you have an investor who's a thorn in your backside, right, that makes you unhappy, and we were talking earlier about optimizing everything you can to be happy, to be frictionless, that is something to be wary of. But I think I would say everyone would agree with me to say the bigger problem is not to have money in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, I see that answer come out of you, and I appreciate the bluntness and honesty as usual. Dumb question alert. How can an investor not have equity? They've invested. They
do have equity, right? But it's just it's an ASA. The way I kind of probably reductivist here or oversimplistic is it's essentially an IOU to say one day the money you're giving me will convert at a certain cap or a certain discount, wherever the future first price round is. ASAs are not uncommon here, and the only real difference between an ASA and a safe between the US and the UK is that an ASA always has to have a stop date, a long stop date, and often a safe in the US doesn't, which is why like you can raise you can do a SEIS and EIS round with safes, US safes, but you do have to put a long stop date. But that's a real difference. But it's a really quite an efficient instrument to do.
Nice. All right. Thanks for the tip. So other than
and I think, just to be a fanboy here again, don't quote me on this. Well, you want to quote me on this because this is recorded, but I think YC invented the safe. I think, yeah. So, yeah.
Interesting.
So a simple agreement for future equity. Pretty sure that they were the ones who invented this concept.
Love a little fun fact. Okay, we'll look into that one, double check. Yeah, that's interesting.
Fact check me, right?
Love that.
You can have a little bubble above me. So the Yang was completely wrong, and it was actually not invented by YC.
I'm definitely going to look that up, by the way. That sounds really interesting. So other than getting onto YC and being an all-male-led AI startup, any other fundraising tips before we move on? What's worked for you? And I can also just imagine...
Maybe this, don't listen to any advice. Try for yourself.
Switch off this podcast.
Yeah, switch off this podcast. Don't listen to me.
Move on. Talk to me.
Yeah, I sometimes, as I said, like I'm pretty hesitant in general. I'm happy to tell stories or anecdotes, right? But I always say that don't take this as advice. But I just think that even if I did the same thing again, in the same time frame, I could get a time machine and I did something exactly the same, don't think the results would be the same. Like I don't have any confidence in say what I did again and again was really something that it was like a how-to guide.
What I can imagine, and I really appreciate that kind of balanced, objectivity there. What I can imagine with that fundraising week, as much as it sounds grueling and incredibly controversial in a world of self-care and balance and all the rest of it, I can see the benefits of like hammering it out. This is the week we're all on. And one of the other benefits that did come to mind while I was listening to you there on that was like the rapid investor pitches, like one after another after another. I can imagine how much that makes you so much better, and learning literally from the one before and getting to go and do that in the next one. And crucially, like the pattern recognition as well through doing like, I don't know, 6 or 7 in a day and then going into it again the next day. I mean, obviously you can't sustain that, but like if it's a week of going.
I actually love this question, like the statement that you just said, because I always tell everyone that you're only ever good at pitching when you get sick of it.
It's the 100 reps. It's the
like I don't think of my history of fundraising for my own startups or, you know, startups that I've been early employees with, where I'm working with, you know, the founders, talking directly with, you know, large investors, whether it's Tencent or whether it's Sequoia, right? I don't think we've ever, whether it's me doing the pitching or someone else doing the pitching, we've ever got there until we are truly sick of it, where I never want to say those words ever again, right? And like my co-founder now, Ali, and I played this game where to mix it up, because we were so sick of our own voice and our own pitch, we do each other's parts.
Yeah, just
where like he's the more technical founder, where it's like, you know, just for fun, where we'll be like, no, I'm going to talk about the tech. I'm going to talk about what makes our tech special.
You are preaching to the choir. As someone who memorizes her speeches inside out, back to front, that they're etched on my brain and they're almost like the words lose meaning. And I think that applies to so much in life and in business, you know, even like branding. Obviously my background and branding marketing is, you know, you've got even like a successful brand that's cutting through the noise that people are recognizing and got the brand recall and all the rest of it, when you're sick of it, when you're sick of seeing those same colors or assets. Yeah. So good little tip there. When does Sam Altman make his entrance in the story?
So you know, we have a very great relationship with OpenAI, right? So when we decided to build what we're building now, which is, as I said, a fully agentic, asynchronous, you know, AI software developer, we had an idea, and essentially, you know, and this is full credit to my co-founder Ali, and he had this idea that he scratched down on a notepad, thinking he had this idea of building, how do we train models to be better at existing code? How do we train models to be very proficient at not having to rewrite the entire sort of file of code, right? And just writing, I guess what we call it internally, well, not just as industry, the diffs, right? So you're essentially saying, these are the lines I'm going to add or take away, right? So I'm going to add these new lines and I'm going to take away certain lines. So you can actually modify diffs or add or reduce diffs or subtract diffs. How are these ideas? Because at the time, we didn't think it was possible, and no researcher that we spoke to thought it was particularly possible because of just the limitations of LLMs. So we essentially begged, right? Like we essentially spoke to someone that was willing to talk to us at OpenAI. And at that time, again, this is a YC promotion. Right? YC had this like sort of this DevRel person, developer relations person, that YC startups could kind of go and ask for some advice or could to say, you know, I'm struggling with a few things. They're not just customer service. They're really about advising what is the best way to build.
Like genius.
Yeah, like but much more deeper and often very technical.
Sure.
And we kind of just said to them, we have this idea. We kind of think this is what we need in order to train this. The product that we want from you guys or anyone in the LLM space does not exist. So, but we're going to present it anyway. So we did loads of research and we're like, can you present it to someone who you think would listen to us? And we did it over weeks and weeks and months until we had a breakthrough moment where they were about to release GPT-4 Turbo, right? And at that point, the stars started aligning. The functionality, the context window, the intelligence requirements that we needed were suddenly possible. But what we were still asking was still not available to public usage, right? And so we then had to present lots more research and lots more like proof points to say, and they started unlocking piece by piece in terms of like, you can go and test some part of your hypothesis and then come back with evidence to say you are still on the right track. So we kind of ground them down, right? There's no secret, you know, network here. There's no like, you know, we knew someone's mom or we knew someone's dad, right? Like we just persisted, right? We had it in terms of we had someone that we would listen to us, and they were very good in terms of they were a cheerleader internally at OpenAI. But the long story short is that, you know, eventually we were the biggest, if not one of the biggest, in terms of data set size for, sort of training, sort of supervised fine tuning at the time. Now we're doing reinforcement learning. But like, we had such a large requirement that they just had to take us seriously and had to assign lots of resource. And eventually they were like, well, you've met everyone at the exec level and everyone knows about your project. And internally, people are quite excited because you're doing experimental things. You should go meet Sam. Right. And we kind of obviously we were like little schoolgirls and little schoolboys and we were so excited, and all that stuff. And yeah, no, he was actually just took an interest. He took an interest and, he knew from talking to other people and he knew how we described and internally the resources that were dedicating to making us what we wanted to do work, that it was super interesting. And so we basically got invited to present on OpenAI's Dev Day, right? So the annual keynote where we presented our research and then we presented our solution and then we did it multiple times. And we did all these different collaborations because we were, again, I hesitate to not sound so arrogant here, but we like in a lot of ways, and at least in our space, we were pushing the boundaries of what was possible, like sort of in terms of LLM or ML research. And what that unlocked was basically they were willing to basically promote us. Right? You can go onto OpenAI's blog.
There's real value there.
You can see the seminars that we did together. You can see the blog post they wrote about us. You can see the social posts they did about us. There's like a lot of these things we're trying to show value not only for us and to them, but it was showing what other OpenAI customers what was possible, right? Like this is the boundary of at that time what LLM technology was good enough to do.
For all of these like hacks and tips and trick, like being persistent, all the rest of it, like nothing is going to beat the substance, the quality of the product that you've got to actually get their attention. So how does Sam Altman compare to what we see online? Is he the same? Is there something that struck you about him?
He's very diplomatic in person and on screen. Oh. I think that maybe this is maybe a product of someone who is a CEO of a very important, very visible company, right? Like he's not
super neutral.
He's very, in some way, I don't know if that's the right word. He's very engaged, right? So he's obviously very busy, and whenever we've met him, he's always coming from something or going to somewhere else, and he's got his team basically telling him what's coming next. But he's locked in. When you're there, he's paying active attention to you, right? He's not thinking, he's not drifting, he's not checking his phone. He's locked in. He does ask big questions. I remember, and Ali, my co-founder, will find this funny. The very first words he's ever said to us was, nothing, we didn't have any room, all the meeting rooms were booked, right? His office was taken by some other thing and all that stuff. And we just went to the cafeteria. So he just pulled a stool, sat on it and just said, what can I do for you?
Amazing.
And it was such an open-ended question. And we're like taking it back. It's like, okay, we're going to give you a wish list. Like, this is what we need. This is why we need it. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, well, these things are going to happen in weeks. These things are going to happen in months. These are not going to happen.
When Sam Altman asks you what you want, founders have answers ready.
Yeah, like, to be honest, we weren't prepared, right? We thought we would have to give them like, oh, this is what we do. And I'm like, but he already knew. And maybe someone briefed him. Maybe he would, I don't know whether he's paying attention to us, but he at least made us feel that he was engaged and he was actually trying to help. And actually the stuff that we said we needed, the vast majority of the stuff came to us eventually, right? Not obviously immediately, but eventually came to us.
It's how people make you feel, right? It's like really good leaders. Like they're there to help, to serve. And who do you look up to? Who inspires you in this entrepreneurial space?
Maybe not so well known. Actually, maybe he is well known, but I love the CEO of Box. So not Dropbox, but Box.com.
Okay.
So it's Aaron Levie. So I think that they were a year or at least a couple of months before Dropbox launched, and they're a very enterprise heavy solution for cloud storage, right? And so I've always just loved him. Like, he's always very thoughtful, very optimistic and practical, right? And so now, particularly on X, you see Aaron talking a lot about the future of enterprise AI, or how is it going to shape labor markets and stuff like that. And I still think he's always been brilliant in my mind.
Have you met him in person?
I have not actually. No, I'm a fanboy from afar.
Be a risk of don't meet your heroes.
Don't think so. I know. I don't want to believe it. Maybe this is just delusion. I think I'd still like him. So I definitely really look up to Aaron Levie.
Nice. Love that. Penultimate question, because the time has flown. I'm sure there's so many other things we haven't covered, but something I do want to ask, shifting gears more into the personal, because I know that every woman would be asked this. So I absolutely have to ask the man. Since I've known you and during this journey, you've become not only a dad, but a dad of 3. So the usual, how do you juggle business and motherhood? Yang, how are you balancing business and fatherhood?
Having a very good wife. I think that
you've lost weight as a result of it.
Yeah, well, I think I've lost weight because I have a reason to be healthy now. I think that's all I say to lots of people, right? Like previously, I didn't really look after myself because it was like, it's laziness.
The benefits of that with the startup as well, just being healthy, switched on.
Definitely, I think it's like again, it's a discipline, right? My diet is now much more considered, right? It's not so restrictive, but it's definitely more considered. And so your choices are also kind of, you just like, okay, I'm going to stick to the choices, and you don't need to think about the choices as much anymore. How do we do it? I definitely think it's definitely having a wonderful wife, a very capable wife, a very tolerant wife, and all that stuff. But I think it's just like my wife Georgia and I have always spoken about how we're both entrepreneurs. We are both very good at communication and disagreeing, and also understanding that we both have a bias towards action, which is get on with it. Like we are very good and tolerant in terms of like, I definitely require her to be tolerant against my quirks and all that stuff a lot more than she does. I need to be tolerant for her. But I think it's just like that communication, and to say we have made the conscious decision to have kids. And maybe this is, again, very unromantic or cold or something like that. But at least on my side, the opportunity cost of not being able to have kids because you delay having kids is far worse than the opportunity cost of having to sacrifice your social life or, your energy, or the fact that you feel overwhelmed at work because you have to juggle things. I don't want to wake up in a decade's time and think, now, we can't have children, right? For whatever reason, like you don't know whether you don't know whether you can have children down the line, right? It's not guaranteed for anything, but for me, always that decision to be like, okay, we made that conscious decision, and we know we have to sacrifice this. And if we thought the decision was good at the time, don't regret it.
Yeah, you want it and make it work. Do you know, this really strikes me. I feel like such a common thread throughout this entire interview has been your total clarity, Yang, or at least like it comes across, whether it's like business, hiring, being able to move fast, balancing business and fatherhood is just that clarity that comes across. And I feel like all these decisions and actions are just so much easier when you're just clear on what you want, right? And maybe that's reflective of me feeling a little bit kind of like in the murky area a bit. But
I would say like
I'm kind of envious of you for that.
I don't think you need to be envious of me. I think for me, again, Georgia, my wife, would probably say that I am definitely applying logic retrospectively. If I was being honest, I would say like I have clarity in the present. I definitely changed my mind. I probably changed my mind a lot. But
which is not a bad thing.
Once I changed my mind, I live in the present. Like, and I saw this, again, it's not my original quote here, but I saw this quote recently, which I kind of love.
I hope you're going to say the same one. I think I'm...
Oh, it's like anxiety thing.
Oh,
no. So I think everyone gets anxious, right? Anyone who says they don't get anxious, I would say I would accuse them of lying. Right. Well, maybe they're just anxious and they don't know it.
Yeah.
So maybe not conscious lying.
Yeah.
But I think it's untrue. I think everyone gets anxious. But anxiety is when you live too far into the future. Right? You're thinking about what if happens, what this, like, what happens if this, or what that.
The opposite, backwards.
And actually, if you think about it in the present, right? Like, okay, I have to do something.
Yeah.
And you do that, and it's a lot better. And so, like, I think I have a lot of certainty because, like, I make decisions about what is the information I have now.
Yeah.
What is the practicalities? And I obviously have aspirations to say what I would like to happen, but, you play the hand that you're dealt and you just got to get on with it.
Love that. Do you meditate, Yang?
Do not meditate. I am a terrible person in terms of...
Words from a meditator, like in the moment, present, we can only take the action we can here and now.
I recently taken up running just as a healthy lifestyle, but honestly, like I'm a terrible person for like these for self-help things. Like I don't meditate, I don't do yoga, not particularly active. In fact, I don't enjoy being active, but I force myself to be active. I drink, right? I drink coffee and lots of caffeine, right? I drink a Diet Coke and a coffee back to back if I have to.
It's just fantastic mental health.
Well,
great perspective.
Maybe it's just coping, but like at least I think it works for me. And I think the strand for me is always just like, yeah, you can hear anecdotes, but you just got to go try it. Yeah.
Well, lovely message for our listeners. Like if you're worried, anxious, like be in the moment, get back to now. I remember actually having a meeting with an old colleague. You've just kind of brought this memory back for me. I had a meeting with a colleague who really badly suffered with anxiety, like so badly. I felt really sorry for her. And we had this meeting. It was just the two of us. And she was, it kind of seemed like she was spiraling, dare I say. And she was going on, and I was like, none of this has happened. And you could see so incredibly visibly, like, her whole face, her whole back, but it was honestly like I'd lit a switch in her brain, and it was just like, oh, fuck, like, and just these moments of like, come back to now. What can you do right here, right now? And to your point, we've been dealt the cards we've been dealt with. What's in our power and our control now? Anxiety's in the future, depression's in the past. Come back to the moment. Yang, to wrap, my traditional closing question on this show is, what's one tragedy that's taught you an unforgettable lesson?
In my own life?
With the business.
With business. Again, I don't think this is unique. I think that we probably took a little bit too long to scale headcount. Mm-hmm. Last year, we were very lean and our burn was almost non-existent. And it definitely was like we could last almost infinitely, right? So we raised quite a significant sum of funding. There was, 5 of us until the very end where we had 6 of us. So we had a really crappy office where it was like literally destined to be demolished, and it cost us nothing. And, the toilets were literally a temporary toilet. So we were super lean, but I did think like, our CFO, Niall, and I have to credit him with this, like sat me down and said, you guys are doing good work. You have external validators. AWS is treating you like a chosen child and giving you access to loads of cool stuff for free. And OpenAI is giving you lots of cool stuff for free. And so you're validated that you're on the right track. Your beta testers are telling you, they would use this, got some great conversations. But it's too comfortable, right? You're too comfortable, and that, this could be running infinitely, and everyone is friends because we only hired friends back then. It always felt like you were going to work with friends, and we could have a beer, we could play, we could go bouldering together, go-karting together, and we just loved it. We loved spending every moment together because we were genuinely friends. But the lack of pressure was creating a culture where we were
a bit too relaxed,
right? And actually, it was like you have all this runway. Scaling the team and adding people that were just a little bit before prematurely. And so we were going to hire these more senior people that cost us a lot more money. We were going to hire people in functions that we were close to needing, but not quite needing just yet. Suddenly shifted the company into a gear where we're like, we're going to go get it. We're going to absolutely go dominate this space. We are confident in our product and the tech already, but now we're going to go to market, and we're really going to go and carve out a space for ourselves. And that I think was just like a wake-up call to say, there is...
Go and get it.
It's never nice to feel like that you're going to run out of money, but there is a level of uncomfortableness that kind of focuses you and say you shake it up. You say, look, having higher headcount, like, and obviously there is a limit, right? Going hiring 100 people overnight is obviously going to be pointless. But, we were adding, 2 or 3 people essentially every month, right? And until we started ramping up a little bit faster. That naturally just started with more external people that we kind of have to promote a little bit more ourselves, that we also had to drive to say, well, people can't twiddle their thumbs. So we've really got to push to say, what more can we do? What can we accelerate? What can we do faster? And all that stuff really, ignited, I think, that sudden shift in terms of we've got to step into high gear.
Love that. And I think I was on the sidelines when that moment happened. I remember meeting up with you and you kind of telling me about this kind of change in direction. It was so exciting, and it was very kind of like, not quite YOLO, but it was like, we have got this opportunity right here, right now. We've got the resource, we've got the opportunity. Let's go for it. Let's grab the ball by both hands. I just want to quickly ask you another quick question here. Can you convert the kind of intangible discomfort with that sort of risk tolerance into a practical metric? So specifically where my mind goes with that is like your runway as a metric. So really practical, like financial runway. So for example, like I know with me, with Bloom, my last business, I wanted to make sure that like we at least had like 6 months operating expenses before being, and I needed to really sort of have like, when we hit this milestone, that can unlock maybe this reinvestment or this next hire or this decision. So is there any of that for you to help gauge the risk tolerance?
I'm going to refuse to answer because I don't know how to make that calculation.
Conversation with Niall.
Well, I just don't know how you ever, like, every business is different, right? Like, I just like, some products take longer to build, so you just need more time for experimentation. Particularly for us, I think that everyone who is using AI expects to say, AI is such a game changer and so amazing that you could release any product that has AI infused and people will love it, right? Or at least it's going to benefit them in some way.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true. I think there are certain industries, so we are a large proportion of our customers are enterprise customers, right? So particularly people who are regulated, so like banks, healthcare, or people who have very low risk tolerance, right? Or fault tolerance. They won't accept a product that is not refined, right? So this idea of just ship it MVP if the problem is big enough, or then they will accept any solution. I think that is true for the majority of businesses and customer profiles. But for us, we've landed in a space where, if you are working with something that is critical to state infrastructure, they just won't accept it unless it's perfect, or at least ticks a lot of the boxes. And so you just need longer to figure out what is it for a product is right and what you're building is right.
Did you ever have like a target sort of runway or something that you could look to give a bit more of that tangibility with your? I
think for us it's more than 6 but less than 12 is probably like I think it's like, again, it's just like it's very different, and from time to time, you have to think about, we made bets now where like, if we do this and accelerate a little bit more and make us a little bit more uncomfortable, we know with some high degree of certainty that our revenue will also grow, in which case the cash flow becomes better, right? Like it's like, again, we're in a VC backed business. We should have good margins, but really what you're optimizing for is good cash flow, so you don't run out of cash, right? Needing to turn on to become profitable is not a pre-stage like sort of seed company or pre-seed or seed stage company is optimizing for. I'm sure people will disagree with me, but like this is the type of business I'm trying to build, and this is what we're looking for.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, I could definitely keep going, and especially these last topics around sort of, the lean startup versus needing to deliver something of quality. I mean, that could definitely set me off for another hour, but I won't do that to our listeners. I'm very conscious of your valuable time, so appreciate you tuning in. Yang, anything else? I know there's so much more we haven't covered, but are there any other juicy salient points that you want to make sure you get on the pod before we wrap?
Don't listen to anything I've just said.
And with that in mind, thank you so much everyone for listening. We hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, you know what to do. If you haven't already, please hit that follow or subscribe button. This really, really helps me out. Like, the podcast space is so incredibly saturated. It is not lost on me that you've decided to listen to this interview. And you know what? There aren't many women doing this either and having these business conversations. So if you've enjoyed this, then help support to keep this going. Doesn't cost you anything. Takes 2 seconds. Really hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, leave a comment. Yang, thank you so much. It's been
Thanks for having me.
An absolute pleasure. Thank you.